Hey guys, Thoth here. Today I wanted to come at you with a little video about end-user license agreements, XIGNCode, which is the anti-cheat that Dirty Bomb uses, and the general reaction that people on the forums and Reddit have been giving over the last, I'd say, 24 to 48 hours, as well as including some other threads that I've seen outside of the last 48 hours. So the first thing I wanted to bring attention to was client-side anti-cheat in general, and a little explanation from a fellow by the name of Droid Logician made a post on the Change My View subreddit about client-side anti-cheat. And now he says, besides being an inconvenience, client-side anti-cheat software can be a real threat to privacy. Most client-side anti-cheats work by scanning computer's memory, watching the game process itself, for external modifications such as injected code, as well as monitoring other processes on the machine for malicious activity. This software is, by its very nature, almost completely opaque in its source and function. It's very difficult to find out what it's actually doing, because if it exposed its inner workings, it would be easier to circumvent. And I think that's pretty much perfectly put. Client-side anti-cheat is intended to be, I guess, in some cases, a violation of your privacy, because it's scanning things that you wouldn't want any random person to scan. However, the important thing to note is what the anti-cheat is or isn't doing with the information that it's collected. And in this case, I've seen a severe lack of evidence that shows that XIGNCode, or most client-side anti-cheats in that matter, do anything with the information that they gather other than look for whether it's relevant tags or matches and searches for existing cheats and things like that, or if they're proactively looking for future cheats. Regardless, I've yet to see anything that proves XIGN has done anything with my personal information besides gloss over it to see if it is relevant to a hacking tool. So I see some people saying, why do we use XIGNCode at all? And further to that, I see some people saying, why don't we use VAC instead? So to answer the first question, we use XIGNCode because it stops cheaters. Does it stop every cheater? No. And does it stop some really dedicated cheaters? No. But the point is XIGNCode is like a lock for your front door. It's not going to stop every thief, but it will stop 90% of the would-be thieves that are going to wiggle your door handle, and unless it opens automatically, they're just going to walk away. I don't think people realize that the same cheat that gets used 1 week is not the same cheat that gets used 4 weeks away. People consistently create new cheats. That's why anti-cheats are important. They're much like an antivirus. They develop over time, they build definitions, they have a list of things. So if you go and download a cheat from 8 years ago, it's not going to work because there's already a definition in a library that says, this is what it does, don't let it happen. If you think that XIGNCode is doing nothing, then I feel sorry for you. Because the number of cheaters that would exist on this game if it weren't for XIGNCode, this game is running on Unreal 3 engine. There's been cheats for this game for a long time, longer than Dirty Bomb has existed. So to say that it's doing nothing, I think is a little crazy. And to touch on people saying we should use VAC instead, VAC is literally the exact same thing. It scans your memory, it looks at processes. Is it a little more developed? Sure. It probably is. The reason we use XIGNCode is because it's cheap and easy to license, and it's a free-to-play game, so Nexon is trying to cut costs. But when it comes to VAC, go look at the Global Offensive forums. Look at the rampant hacking issues that we had in CSGO for forever. Christ, I think it was like 90% of the top 10% of players in matchmaking were VAC banned. Like tons and tons of people were banned for cheating. And that's on a game that costs $15 to buy. It's not a free game. So I think that XIGNCode is doing a pretty good job, and just because people can't see it working doesn't mean that it isn't. I also see people saying, well, what can we do to improve client-side anti-cheat? And the honest answer is not much. People are already up in arms about the potential privacy invasions of scanning your memory for what we have here. In order to improve client-side anti-cheat, you need to be more invasive in the privacy. And people have given Valve's anti-cheat VAC slack for years, saying that it doesn't do enough to stop cheaters, and I can't believe there's rampant cheating in this game with a game with anti-cheat. And the honest answer is, Valve tried, and they got met with some pretty nasty resistance. People saying that they don't agree with the level of access that VAC has on their PC when they were doing that, and it's, in violation of their privacy. So people have to decide one way or another, whether it's an acceptable breach of your privacy by a company that you trust to do a very intrusive anti-cheat, or you're just going to have something like XIGNCode and VAC the way it is currently. If you want an example of intrusive anti-cheats gone wrong, look at ACA, for example. They had administrator, ground-level privileges on your PC, and as a result, what did they do? They installed Bitcoin miners on every PC that was using the ESEA client, and were in the end taken to court. So I think people kind of need to just take a second and step back and look at exactly what's going on and decide for themselves what it is that they want. So So the last thing I wanted to touch on is end user license agreements. And in this post in particular, and many others I've seen, people are posting excerpts from EULAs as definitive proof that companies are mishandling your private information. And that's absolutely not the case. If you take a look at this post, for instance, 4.5.1, Nexon America shall have the right to monitor and or record your communications when you use the software, and you acknowledge and agree that when you use the software, that you have no expectation that your communications will be private. Now, if you go to Blizzard's EULA and their TOS, it's the exact same thing. Blizzard shall have the right to monitor and or record your communications when you use Battle.net, and you acknowledge and agree that when you use Battle.net, you have no expectation that your communications will be kept private. Exactly the same thing. And it's a very similar thing if you go on Tryon World's Terms of Service, if you go on JIW Games and you look at their EULA for the games that they have, exactly the same thing. And even on things like masterybreastsurgeons.org. It has nothing to do with gaming. If you search for communication, you're going to see the exact same thing. So in closing, no, statements from end-user license agreements and excerpts are not definitive proof that somebody is mishandling your personal information or breaking any laws. Secondly, I'd like to say that I think XIGN is doing a pretty decent job of keeping us hacker-free. I don't see that many of them. I've got almost 250 hours in, and I've only seen one. Maybe I'm just lucky. I know some people saying that, they see them every fourth game, and that's pretty unfortunate. But if you think without an anti-cheat, how much worse that would be, I'd say we're doing all right. As far as XIGN mishandling my personal information, again, I've seen nothing to prove that. The only thing I've seen is that 3 months ago, the anti-cheat worked as intended on Dungeon Fighter Online, and that's about it. I myself will still be out on the field fragging every day, and I hope to see you guys out there as well. And as far as the people saying that they're going to uninstall or refund their purchases, I really hope that you don't do that. I mean, it's obviously it's up to you if you do, but I don't feel like there's been anything done here to show that you've been mistreated in any way or that your purchases were unfounded. The game is still great, and this shouldn't change anything. And as you can see, nothing has been followed up on from that 3 month ago post on DFO. Nobody's had any issues. Nobody's had any major problems. XIGN hasn't been found to mishandle anybody's information. So while in cases like ESEA, you can see that people can misuse client-side anti-cheat with too much authority and too much access, but I don't think that's the case here. So, as always, happy fragging, guys, and thank you for watching.